At the Mother's Day lunch, she stood up and said, "I'm proud of all my kids." Well, except the one sitting right here. Everyone burst into laughter. I got up, slid a black box onto the table, and said, "For you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day." Then, without another word, I walked out, took back the luxury car I'd given her, and not long after, she screamed when she opened the box. "I'm proud of all my kids. Except the loser sitting here." Word for word, that was my mother's toast. On Mother's Day, champagne glass raised high, with everyone else laughing like she'd told the funniest joke ever, I was the loser. I didn't even flinch. I just looked at her, noticing the way her mouth tightened when she was about to humiliate me, and that gleam in her eye that said, "Yeah, I said that, and I don't regret it." My sister, Melanie, snorted into her mimosa, while her husband, Greg, slapped the table. My younger brother, Aaron, leaned in and whispered, "Don't take it too seriously, man. It's just Mom being Mom." Nobody looked uncomfortable. Nobody spoke up. Nobody said, "Hey, that's enough." I was invisible, but only when they wanted me to be. When the bills needed to be paid, when Melanie's car needed new brakes, or when Aaron needed help with rent, suddenly, I was the family's backbone. But on Mother's Day? I was the punchline. I hadn't planned on making a scene. I hadn't even thought about doing any of this. But something inside me shifted right then. Something that felt final. I reached under the table, pulled out that black box, and placed it right in front of her plate. "Happy Mother's Day," I said, as calmly as I could. She blinked at it, probably confused but definitely suspicious. "What's this?" she asked, her voice now cautious. Everyone leaned in, curious. "You'll see," I replied. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and walked out of the house. 10 minutes later, I was in her driveway. I unlocked the luxury car I had given her the year before, the one she loved bragging about to her book club, the one she told her friends was from her favorite child, though she never mentioned it was me. I had the spare key. I got in, started the engine, and drove off slowly and calmly, like I was just running an errand. I didn't hear her scream, but I could picture it. Her shrill voice echoing through the house, her perfectly manicured fingers desperately clawing at the edges of the box, finding what I'd left for her, a single photograph. It was me, 10 years old, holding a homemade Mother's Day card and a bouquet of flowers I'd bought with coins I saved by skipping lunch for a week. On the back, it read, "This was the last time I thought I mattered to you." That's how it all began. Not the war, but the reckoning. For 2 weeks after Mother's Day, there wasn't a word from anyone. No calls. No texts. Not even a vague post from Melanie, which was unusual for her. She couldn't go 20 minutes without posting about her emotional state or the latest kale smoothie. Then, finally, Greg broke the silence. He sent me a message. "Hey man, that whole car thing really messed her up. Maybe you should apologize." Apologize? They humiliated me in front of everyone on purpose and laughed. And now I was supposed to feel sorry for taking back something I'd paid for? But I didn't reply. I didn't block him either. I wanted to see what they'd do next. And they didn't disappoint. 3 days later, my father called. Not to apologize. Not to ask how I was doing. Just one sentence on voicemail: "If you're done acting like an attention seeker, we could use some help with Aaron's tuition." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. Aaron. The golden boy. The family's future. The one who just needed time to figure things out. He'd been figuring things out for 6 years. Meanwhile, I was the one paying off his credit cards and wiring him money for textbooks he never even bought. I told myself I was done. I really believed it. But then, I made the mistake of going back. Not for them. For Grandma. Her birthday. She was turning 83, the only person in that family who ever looked at me without judgment. She lived in a small house just outside town, where the grass was always neatly trimmed, and the air smelled like boiled tea and soap. She never asked me for anything. Just offered peppermint hard candies and memories. The party was simple. Finger foods. fold-out chairs, plastic tablecloths. I almost forgot who I was walking into until I overheard it. They were in the kitchen. I'd gone to get ice, not trying to spy, but I paused when I heard my name. Melanie, loud as ever, he's not family, he's just a wallet with feelings. The room erupted in laughter. I heard Greg chuckle, saying, well, feelings don't pay rent. Then Mom. My mother. She sighed, that tired, dramatic sigh she always did when she wanted pity. I just wish he'd learn to take a joke. He always makes it all about him. It's not like we forced him to give us anything. And then, Dad, with the final blow, he did it to feel important. Let him feel small for once. I stood there, holding the ice bucket, frozen. Not moving. Not breathing. They hadn't seen me yet. When I finally walked into the room, everything went dead silent. They didn't try to hide it. No excuses. No laughter. Just guilt. And then came the usual cover-up. Oh. There you are. We were just talking about you. Yeah, I said. I heard it all. Melanie blinked, and Mom reached out like she was trying to grab my arm. Don't twist this, sweetheart, she said. We were just. You were just reminding each other how helpful I used to be, I interrupted. Don't worry, I added, message received. I didn't leave. Not yet. Grandma still hadn't gotten her cake. But I watched. I stood there, watching, as no one could look me in the eye for the rest of the night. How Aaron handed me a plate like it was some sort of peace offering. How Greg tried to bring up the stock market, as if pretending nothing happened would somehow reset everything. They knew I had heard. They also knew I wasn't about to shout. I wasn't going to break down in tears. And that, more than anything, scared them. But they weren't done with me yet. A week later, I got an email from my bank. A transfer had been attempted from an old joint account I had with Dad. One we'd set up when I helped him refinance the house years ago. It had been sitting dormant. I'd completely forgotten about it. But they hadn't. I called the bank. Frozen the account. Flagged the attempted transfer. Then I drove over to their place. Not to confront them. Just to watch. They were having dinner. Tacos, from the smell. I didn't knock. I didn't say a word. I just stood across the street, hands in my pockets, as the windows glowed with that warm family light. I wasn't part of it anymore. But I used to be. They didn't notice me until Melanie stepped outside to take out the trash. She stopped in her tracks when she saw me, then put on a smile like nothing had happened. You're being dramatic again, she said. Come inside. It's Taco Tuesday. I walked toward her, but not too close. Just enough. You tried to steal from me, I said. You joked about me. Used me. Mocked me. And now I'm supposed to smile over tacos? She just shrugged. Families fight, she said. I leaned in closer. No. Families break. And with that, I turned around. She didn't follow me. But the next morning, I got a text from her. Don't do anything crazy. You'll regret it. She was right. I was about to do something insane. But I wouldn't regret it. Because for the first time, I saw the truth. I wasn't part of their family. I was just part of their plan. And that game? It was over. A week before all this went down, they sent me a message. One sentence. We miss you. Let's do Mother's Day right this time. I didn't reply right away. I waited 3 days. Then I wrote back. Fine. One dinner. Just family. They thought I was crawling back, that the black box in the car were just a tantrum. They figured all it would take was a nice dinner and a few sweet words to bring their little puppet son back. I showed up at 6. The table was set, just like before. Candles. Swan-folded napkins. Wine glasses shining like they'd been polished to perfection. Mom was wearing the pearl necklace I'd given her. Melanie had on a low-cut dress, that same smug smile on her face. Greg sat next to her like some loyal little dog. Dad sat at the head of the table, as if he'd somehow earned that spot. Only Aaron seemed genuinely nervous. "We're so happy you came," Mom said. "We really missed you." Maybe we went too far last time," Dad mumbled, looking down. "Or maybe we didn't go far enough," he added. "But family's bigger than pride, right?" Mom quickly jumped in. "Let's not hold grudges." I didn't say anything. I just waited. She raised her glass. "Tonight's about turning the page. I'm proud of all my children. Even the ones who lost their way. We all make mistakes," she added, a beat of silence following. And then a voice from the hallway. "Sorry I'm late." Everyone turned as Rachel stepped into the room. Melanie's ex. The one she always called unstable. The one she swore would ruin her life. The one she lied about for years. Melanie froze, mid-sip. "What's she doing here?" she hissed. "She's here for dinner," I said, calm. "With the family." Rachel walked in, cool and composed, and sat beside me. She pulled a small envelope from her purse and placed it gently on the table. "I've kept quiet long enough," she said. "But I was invited here to tell the truth." My father leaned forward, about to say something, but Rachel beat him to it. "Mrs. Harris," she said, looking straight at Mom. "Back in January, over wine, you told me this about your son. His emotions are his leash. He pays when he feels guilty. And this? He's not family. He's a strategy." I turned to Melanie. "And you," I said, "you didn't know I was standing behind the hallway wall when you said, 'Let him feel small for once.'" Melanie lost it first. "She's lying. This is a setup. You brought her here to ambush us? You're seriously doing this? Again? You need help. You want to talk about help?" I cut her off, pulling a printed bank statement out of my jacket. "Here's a wire transfer. $12,500 from my account to yours. Approved. But not by me." I slid the paper across the table. "That's not a mistake. That's fraud." My father jumped to his feet. "This is betrayal," he shouted. "We came here to make peace and you bring this snake?" By then, Mom had started crying. But it was that fake, actress kind of crying, just enough to look tragic without messing up her makeup. "I don't know what you want from us," she whispered. I stood up. "I want nothing," I said. "Not your apologies. Not your calls. Not your guilt. I want distance." I met each of their eyes. "I'm not your son anymore. I'm your consequence." I pulled one last thing from my jacket, a sealed envelope, crisp and official. "In here is the formal termination of our joint accounts. My access to your business? Gone. My name's been erased from the trust," I added, with a cold finality. Grandpa made sure of that before he passed. "Melanie? Gone. Dad? Gone." I placed the envelope in front of my mother's glass. "This is your inheritance now." The silence that followed hung heavy, like the respect they never gave me. Then, I pulled out an old photo of me at 10 years old, holding a handmade card and a bouquet. It was the last time I thought any of this mattered. I ripped it in half and laid the pieces on the table, one for each of them. "One for each of you." And then I walked out. Nobody moved. Not a word. Just a suffocating silence. At the door, I glanced back one last time. Their faces weren't full of anger. They were broken. I didn't shout. I didn't take to social media or give them a speech. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up a spreadsheet. Over the next 8 days, I sat down with a friend of mine, an accountant, and we went through everything. A complete audit. Not of their lives, but of mine. $14,300 for Aaron's tuition. Semesters I paid for, just to help him get settled. He settled into failure just fine. $7,800 for Melanie's car. A lease in my name, her name still proudly displayed on the bumper stickers. Just until I get approved for my own, she said. That was 3 years ago. $2,400 for Mom's medical expenses. A dozen copays and specialist visits charged to my insurance, with her promising to pay me back later. Never once asking if I had extra coverage. $18,000 in direct transfers, Venmo, cash, wire. Help with rent. The fridge broke. I just need to get through this month. You'd think with all the money I sent, they'd be living like royalty. But no. They somehow managed to look poor while talking rich. $1,650 in gifts. Holidays, birthdays, random anniversaries. The bed I bought after Dad threw out the old one in a drunken rage. Melanie's congratulations on your engagement spa weekend. Aaron's I passed my first-class sushi dinner. All meticulously logged. With receipts. Screenshots. Timestamps. Even printed text messages. Can you send it tonight? The landlord's being difficult. If I ask Mom, she'll freak out. Just until next week. Total, $44,150. 47, not a round, symbolic number. Not a guess. Exact. Cold. Precise. I handed the file to my attorney. A quiet guy, but brutal when needed. We went to school together. I'd once paid for his bar prep course. He never forgot that. Do you want the full amount? He asked, his voice low. Or should we leave them some dignity? Every cent, I replied. No interest. No fluff. No drama. Just the facts. A few days later, the letters went out. Certified. One to Dad. One to Mom. One to Melanie. The subject line, outstanding family debt. This is not revenge. This is closure. Attached was a detailed breakdown of all financial support rendered between 2016 and 2023. Total due, $44,150. 47. Please remit full payment within 90 calendar days via certified bank transfer. Signed, Oliver Harris. Melanie cracked first. You've got to be kidding me. Counting gifts? She messaged. You need help. Seriously. You're ruining this family. I didn't reply. Her words stayed unread. Dad called my attorney, trying that paternal tone. We're blood. You can't sue your own father. He didn't like hearing the truth that you absolutely can, especially with proper documentation and legal standing. Mom? She didn't call. She sent a letter. Carefully handwritten. Ink smudged, probably from wiping away tears. I gave you life. I stayed up with you when you were sick. I prayed for you. And now you send lawyers? No apology. No accountability. Just guilt. Classic weaponized guilt. The way she always used it. On day 21, we filed the civil claims. Melanie countersued, claiming emotional harm, accusing me of manipulating her into accepting the money. She lost. Badly. The judge didn't even blink. He simply read through the records, the transactions, text messages, written acknowledgments, and dismissed her case in less than an hour. Dad didn't respond. 3 weeks later, we filed for judgment by default. 1 lien. 2 garnishment warnings. A flag was placed on his primary checking account. Mom didn't show up for court. She didn't file any response. But the following week, when she tried to pay for her medication at the pharmacy, her card was declined. Her retirement benefits were being docked. A percentage taken each month. Just like they'd taken from me for years. And me? I didn't gloat. I didn't say, "I told you so." I didn't say a word. I just watched as the payments started rolling in. Melanie paid first. Probably to stop the bleeding. Dad paid second, once he realized the lien would destroy his credit. Mom paid last. She sold her silver tea set, the one from her wedding. I found out from a cousin who said she cried while packing it up. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean. On the 91st day, I walked into my bank and withdrew exactly $44,150 in cash. Hundreds. 50s. 20s. All neatly bundled. I placed the cash in a matte black lockbox, lining it with velvet. On top, I added a single note: "This isn't money. It's accountability." I didn't send it. I didn't burn it. I simply locked it away in a private deposit box, under my name, not as a trophy, but as proof that I had paid for my escape. Then, I donated $5,000 to a nonprofit that supports adults recovering from family-based financial abuse. The receipt and thank you note they sent was the only gratitude I needed. I didn't celebrate. No new car. No toast. No grand gestures. I sat at the same desk where, 5 years ago, I had skipped dinner to send rent money to Melanie. And quietly, to myself, I whispered, I didn't want revenge. I wanted my life back. And now it's paid in full. I didn't run off to a new city or retreat to some faraway place to heal. I stayed right where I was. What changed? Everything else. For the first time in my life, my phone didn't buzz with emergencies I hadn't caused. No more late-night texts from Aaron. No more missed calls from Mom, pretending to check in. No more voice notes from Melanie, making small talk when she really just needed more money. The silence was immediate. And it was glorious. I didn't need noise to prove I'd won. I needed absence to prove I'd escaped. I started sleeping better. Deeper. My apartment, for once, stayed clean, because I wasn't rushing out to fix everyone else's mess. Food tasted better. Music felt louder. Even the air seemed easier to breathe. I wasn't free because they changed. I was free because I stopped needing them to. Then the ripples began. An old family friend stopped me outside a store. Her smile was tight. "Your mom's not well?" she asked, as if that could explain everything. I gave her a look that ended the conversation. She tried again. "You know, families argue." "No," I cut her off, "deep down is exactly where I buried it." She blinked, took a breath, and left. One afternoon, I pulled a bin out of my closet. It was filled with old things I hadn't touched in years: photo albums, cards, old ornaments. I picked up a framed family picture. The last one we ever took together. I was smiling, but my shoulders were hunched. I looked like a stranger in my own life. I threw it out. Not in anger. In peace. That week, I packed up 3 pieces of furniture: the coffee table I bought for my parents, the shelf I built for Aaron's books, he never even opened them, and the dining chairs I gave Melanie when hers broke. I donated them to a shelter. Let someone else sit on them. Someone who might appreciate them. And then, for the first time in years, I deleted every number from my phone tied to them. Not just Mom, Dad, and my siblings. The cousins who stayed silent. The aunt who mocked me across the table. The uncle who refused to take sides. Gone. I didn't block them. I erased them from my future. A month later, I ran into my father in a parking lot. He was unloading groceries from his car, the old SUV was long gone. He turned, saw me, and paused. Maybe to speak. Maybe to fake a smile. I didn't stop walking. I didn't slow down. When I passed him, I didn't look back. That silence was the loudest thing I'd ever said. A week later, I saw Melanie at an outdoor cafe with a man I didn't recognize. They were laughing, gesturing, performing. I don't know if she saw me, but I saw her. And I felt nothing. No anger. No bitterness. Not even pain. Just air. Like she was a scene I'd already watched too many times. The final closure came quietly. I walked into a coffee shop I hadn't been in since last year, the same one where, on Mother's Day, they laughed while I stood there, gutted in public. I ordered tea, took a seat by the window. Same table. Same chair. But everything was different now. There was no tension in my jaw. No ache in my chest. No waiting for the next insult. I looked at the empty seat across from me, the seat where they used to sit. For the first time, I didn't imagine them there. It was just empty. Mine. I took a sip, looked outside, and smiled. This seat used to hurt. Now it's just mine. They stayed the same. But I didn't. And that was enough.